several races, primarily in California, yet to be called. It is still unclear which party will control the House of Representatives. A Republican House would give the party total control over Washington for at least the next 2 years. But even then, the GOP majority in both the chambers would be relatively small, especially in the House. And that's partly why the president-elect is demanding any senator vying to be majority leader commit to allowing him to bypass the traditional confirmation process with recess appointments. NewsNation correspondent Joe Khalil is live on Capitol Hill. And Joe, we know one of the three contenders has already pledged to follow the president-elect's wishes.
Yeah, Kelly, what we're seeing here is President-elect Trump using the levers of government now in a way that maybe he didn't know how to do back in 2016. By his own admission, he didn't know much about how Washington worked back then. Now, with 4 years under his belt, he's able to take some of those lessons and try to get his White House team and his cabinet in place in a way that's more quick, in a way that maybe has less interference. And yes, he even acknowledged that he may be willing to go around conventional and modern norms and maybe find some loopholes in those to get it done. Now, what we're talking about here right away is when he said that he wants whoever becomes the next Republican Senate leader to allow him to make recess appointments. What that means is something that hasn't been done in 20 or 30 years. Essentially, when Congress is not in session, to make sort of an emergency basis appointment of someone who would be one of his cabinet officials temporarily, and that way he wouldn't need the Senate to confirm them with votes. Now, we've already heard that the contenders for the position all have expressed some at least willingness to do so. You heard another way that he's going about this is right away Thomas Homan, the person who he is appointing as his, quote, border czar. And you heard there Robert Sherman talk about Homan. That is not a position that you need Senate confirmation for. The last go-round, he made Thomas Homan his director of ICE. This time around, border czar would be a White House position that you wouldn't necessarily need votes to confirm him for. So it's just a couple of new ways that we are seeing Donald Trump use the levers of government in a way that he hasn't before. And again, this is looking back, lessons learned. We should mention, when it comes to who is going to be the Republican leader in the Senate, replacing Mitch McConnell, you've got three people: Rick Scott, you've got John Thune, and you've got John Cornyn. All three, as we mentioned, have at least none of them have said they wouldn't do a recess appointment. Senator Rick Scott explicitly saying he would do so. The other two saying they'll do everything they can to make sure that Donald Trump gets the cabinet and his appointments that he wants as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And for some additional color here, Joe, as you know, the president-elect also calling on the Senate not to confirm any more President Biden's judicial nominees. While Republicans can slow walk this process because they're still in the minority until January, they certainly can't stop it.
No, that's exactly right. Between now and January, when we have a new Congress and when President-elect Trump becomes President Trump, Democrats still have a majority in the Senate, and they have a Democratic president. So, yes, there are maneuvers that Republicans can use to slow the process down, but there's virtually nothing they can do to prevent President Biden from continuing to make nominees to the bench and from this Senate that's controlled by Democrats for approving those nominees.
Yeah. All right, Joe Khalil, thank you for that update.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.